Today is May 26, 2024, and this is our weekly update on the ongoing war between Israel and the terrorist organization Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Shalom, my friends. This is Akiva Gersh with Israel in 5, where we give you everything Israel in 5 minutes. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or want to keep the conversation going, please do so below in the comments. The war between Israel and the terrorist organization Hamas is nearing 8 months since the attack on Israel on October 7th by thousands of Hamas terrorists who broke through the border to invade Israeli communities along the Gaza border and kill over 1,000 civilians and soldiers, as well as take hostage of over 200 Israelis, of which over 100 of them still remain there in the Gaza Strip today. This past week saw the funerals of some of those hostages who were recovered the week before by IDF soldiers in the Gaza Strip. Unfortunately, those that were brought out were all brought out dead. In addition to that, a few more hostages were found this past week in the Gaza Strip. Again, unfortunately, not alive, dead, and will be brought to burial very soon. The operations that the IDF soldiers are carrying out to find these bodies are very, very complicated and very, very challenging. The 3 bodies that were most recently found were found in a private home in the Gaza Strip underneath a tiled floor, which was covered by a carpet. So you can imagine the difficulty of finding these tunnels. There was a tunnel shaft. There was a shaft that went down about 10 meters, around 30 feet. And inside that shaft is where the soldiers found these bodies of these 3 hostages that were killed and being held in the Gaza Strip since October 7th. Not an easy task, very, very challenging. Soldiers are going building by building, house by house, room by room, looking for evidence, looking for hostages. Continued fighting is taking place all throughout the Gaza Strip. In some areas where the IDF already was fighting, conquered left, and then Hamas terrorists were able to get back to those areas. Israeli soldiers have returned to those areas to continue the fighting, but the main fighting that is happening in the Gaza Strip now already for the past few weeks is in the Rafah region, all the way in the south part of Gaza, along the border with Egypt. More soldiers from the IDF have been brought in there to continue the fight, and Israel has successfully evacuated close to 1 million civilians. The world was all worried about Israel going to Rafah because of the civilians that were sheltering there. And Israel had a plan, drew up a plan, is implementing that plan, and has already been able to evacuate approximately 1 million civilians in that area, focusing its fight on the terrorists there, which is ongoing, again, in Rafah, in the southern region, as well as throughout the Gaza Strip. Every single day, we're hoping and we're praying that IDF soldiers will be able to locate, find, and bring home more hostages. We're hoping alive. But even for those who have already been killed, to at least bring them back to Israel for burial. I personally attended one of those funerals this past week of one of the hostages, one of the 4 hostages that was brought back in the previous week. Very powerful, to say the least. Very emotional. An incredible amount of people showing up from all over the country to pay their last respects to. In this case, the funeral I went to was for this woman, Shani Luke, just 22 years old, who was at the Nova party, captured by Hamas, brutally attacked and killed, her body brought into the Gaza Strip and held there for almost 8 months. Fighting continues on the northern border as well. There are people still, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of Israelis still out of their homes, who live in these northern communities, out of their homes since October 8th, wondering when they're going to be able to go back. It is still unsafe, unfortunately, there. Every year there's a gathering on Lag BaOmer, which is actually today, of a holiday, a festival in the Jewish calendar, celebrating the life of a very famous rabbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, almost 2,000 years ago. And usually hundreds of thousands of Israelis go visit his grave on Lag BaOmer. The army said it was too dangerous. Many missiles, many rockets shot from Lebanon have fallen on that mountain, and they made it a closed military site. For the first time in forever, no one allowed to visit Meron on this very special day. But more importantly is the fact that there are tons and tons of families, communities still not home, still out of their homes since October 8th, right? The day that the fighting began with Hezbollah. In the north, there are communities that have been devastated, small communities along the border with Lebanon, which pretty much have been completely destroyed. Even when the residents there will be able to move back, they will have to go right into rebuilding mode. Last thing I want to share in this weekly update is the court case, the UN, the highest court, the ICJ, International Court of Justice, gave their ruling on a case that was brought by South Africa against Israel, demanding that Israel stop its offensive, its military actions in Rafah. And while some people in the world are interpreting that ruling as saying that they did rule that Israel must stop immediately and completely, the wording actually says different. It says that Israel must stop any offensive that is causing destruction to the Palestinian people. That's not the case. As we said before, Israel has successfully evacuated tons and tons of civilians and focusing their fight only and solely on the terrorists. So Israel definitely interprets that court ruling as allowing it to continue its Rafah offensive because it is focused. It knows that it's focused on terrorists and not on civilians. And like Israel has done since October 7th, in Rafah, it is doing everything it can to protect civilian life and only once again focus their fight on the Hamas terrorists themselves. Again, thank you for all of your support, your prayers, and your thoughts for Israel. We should see a return soon, so soon, of all the hostages, safety for all of the soldiers fighting this fight in Gaza on the northern border with Lebanon, and a final and quick end to this war, seeing Hamas and Hezbollah both dismantled and without any more power. Thank you so much. All the best and be well.